Hello and welcome to 2020 in review. This year is gonna shake things up a little bit, and I'm super excited to share with you from month to month what is happening, how you can prepare yourself, and how to get the most out of the energies that are happening in the sky. Now, this year is a year where Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are kicking up a lot of dust. They are changing the status quo, and I think it's a really good thing that things are being shaken up. There are aspects that happen only once every 34 years. There's aspects happening only once every 20 years. So there are some major things happening, and I'm really excited to start sharing those with you. So I'm gonna go for month to month and talk about the energies and see how you can use them. So January is really about big changes. This is when Saturn and Pluto come together, and this is one of those conjunctions that only happens every 34 years. This is because Pluto moves really slowly. Saturn also moves quite slow. So these planets only get conjunct once every 34 years. When this happens, change is about to happen. Saturn is really about restriction, but also about structure, about being organized. And Pluto is about radical transformation. So Pluto is kind of the planet that burns everything to the ground and then starts to build from there. So expect some major things happening in January. We have a full moon in Cancer, which is also a lunar eclipse. We're going to start the year and end the year with a full moon in Cancer, and in June and July we have 2 new moons in Cancer. So there's a lot of Cancer energy, which really amplifies our femininity, but also our emotions. Being able to allow our emotions to be is something that is very important in 2020. We also have a new moon in Aquarius. First new moon of the year, planting seeds, really looking at the bigger picture and be the revolutionary that you want to be in your field. February is much more about sensitivity. There's a lot of Pisces energy happening, so it's really for you to allow yourself to be more intuitive, to feel more into situations, because we live in a society where it's all about thinking, it's all about our mind, our rational mind, but February is much more about this intuition, really feeling into situations. We have Mercury going into retrograde in Pisces. Now, I know a lot of people, they freak out when they hear, Mercury retrograde, we're not going to do anything, everything's going to go wrong. No, it is a perfect time, however, to really look inward, to be more reflective. So yes, in general, it's not the best time, let's say, to launch a new project or to start opening your card for people to come in to your new programs. But I mean, this very much depends on your own personal chart, but sometimes it's really good time to be more in that reflective mode and to see where you can go as a person. Mars moves into Capricorn, which is really about action, which is interesting and good that in the middle of this month with a lot of Pisces energy, we'll also have Mars going at it, because Mars is action and Capricorn, and Capricorn is much more about structure and getting there. Mars is about the startup, Capricorn is about finishing, so it's a really good time to start finishing some projects. We have a full moon in Leo and a new moon in Pisces, and this year is a leap year, so you get 1 extra day in February, so use that one wisely. March is about March is about forward motion. It is springtime, it's also daylight savings. That's the month where Mercury goes direct again in Aquarius. Saturn will enter Aquarius as well, but because of the retrograde, it goes back into Capricorn from July to December. So in December, it will move for 2.5 years in Aquarius. So this is the taskmaster going into completely different ways, because Saturn is a taskmaster. Aquarius is about completely radical new things. So when the taskmaster, it will start to go into completely new ways, very innovative. It's also time for spring equinox. This is when the sun moves into Aries. We have a full moon in Virgo and a new moon in Aries. When we move into April, that's more about nature and your own values. There are a lot of things happening, so it's really important during that month to stay grounded, to stay with yourself and not be super rushed and all over the place because of all the things that are happening. Jupiter and Pluto are conjunct, and that only happens once every 13 years, and we will have 3 of these conjunctions this year because Pluto and Jupiter go into retrograde, so this conjunction will happen again when they both are in retrograde and will happen again later in the year. So it's really a sign for good luck. It's when Pluto is about expansiveness. Jupiter is about expansiveness. Pluto is much more about this transformation. So when these two come together, expect some amazing things to happen. Mercury will move into Aries. It's been in Pisces for a very long time, so this is really about going forward, taking action, and not being in the dreamy, feely world that much. Pluto will go into retrograde for 5 months, so it's not really a good time to hide away from your shadows. It's also a time to be a little bit more cautious about power struggles and things that are going on in your internal worlds. There's a full moon in Libra and a new moon in Taurus. In May, we have to take a few steps back in order to move forward. So backwards equals forward. The first is Beltane, which is the halfway point between spring equinox and summer solstice. It's a really good time to evaluate, because we're welcoming the light back in, how are we using that light? How are you using your inner fire? How can you channel that even better? Now, the backwards motion I was talking about, we have Saturn in Capricorn going in retrograde, we have Venus in Gemini going retrograde, and we have Jupiter in Capricorn going into retrograde. So there's a lot of moving backwards, which is a beautiful invitation to you to turn more inwards. We have a full moon in Scorpio and a new moon in Gemini. When we move into June, I was going to say July, but we have June 1st. That's much more about feminine power. Mercury will go into retrograde again, but this time in Cancer. There's a lot of Cancer energy happening. That's why this is really about the feminine power, but also allowing yourself to experience the emotions that you're feeling. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go with every emotion that you're feeling, but it's acknowledging that those feelings are there. That's really important in June. Neptune will go into retrograde in Pisces until November. Venus is going direct, yay for love and finances. And this is the second time that Jupiter and Pluto are coming together. But this time they're both in retrograde, so it's much less about future oriented, but much more about the inward turning energy. So it's really more about what have you achieved? So the next time when Pluto and Jupiter are coming together, how can you use those achievements, the things you have learned, to really start to change the status quo in your own life? We have a full moon lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. And this is quite a special one. We have the sun entering Cancer, which is the summer solstice. That same day, we have a new moon and solar eclipse in Cancer. So there's a lot of feminine energy going on. There's a lot of sensitivity. There's also a lot of needing to mother yourself, the urge to mother yourself, which is something that we all have to do, whether we are mothers or not. We really need to be able to mother ourselves. In July, it's really about lessons to be learned. And this is because Chiron is going into retrograde until December. And Chiron is our wounded healer, our deepest wound, our deepest pain. So in order to really go to take that dive within, we need to acknowledge what happened. And I don't say we have to resolve everything. We have to look at every single wound, every single painful thing, but we have to see how we can move from there. So don't change it, but how can we move from there? How can we move from our deepest wound, our deepest pain points, and how can we go from there? How can we heal ourselves and how can we build upon that? Like I said, what lessons do you need to learn in order to grow and to become even closer to yourself and the person that you're meant to be? The sun is going to be opposite Jupiter a day later. It's going to be opposite to Pluto. So that is moving with caution, is a little bit required, because the sun is our ego, our identity. And when Jupiter, which is all about positivity, it can kind of blur the lines between reality and fiction. And Pluto can really start destroying things and turning this into a power struggle, because it's difficult to see things clearly. There's also going to be a full moon and a lunar eclipse in Capricorn, and the second new moon in Cancer. We already had one in June, and now we also have one in July. And this is interesting because normally this is like a do-over when there's a second new moon, but this one has some hard angles happening. So this is not the perfect time to start planting new seeds immediately. And of course, in the Lunar Magic forecast of July, I will tell you all about the details, what this means and what is going to happen. August is very fiery energy. It's the middle of summer. It's usually much more outgoing energy. It's more happy. Most people have holiday or going on holiday. So it's a really more relaxed type of energy. With Leo and Mars energy, they just want to play. They're not about super serious. It's a really month to have fun. Uranus is going into retrograde that month, and we have a full moon in Aquarius and a new moon in Leo. This is really about owning your leadership, really stepping up into that Leo energy of being seen, and not as in claiming, I need all the attention, I need to be seen, but a more, you are meant to be seen. That is really a good thing to remember in August. September, pick up the pace. It is when Mars first is going into retrograde, but Jupiter is going direct, Saturn is going direct. It's a fall equinox, it's when the sun moves into Libra. It's really, things will start to go into a forward motion. And also this is kind of where the snowball starts to roll into this big change that will eventually happen. So this is where things are starting to build up. You might be able to feel in September that there is this buildup of energy happening and things are starting to shift. There is a full moon in Pisces that month and a new moon in Virgo. October is all about integration. So where September was, we're going to pick up the pace. October is really about integrating all of that. It is when Pluto also goes direct, Mercury goes again into retrograde, this time in Scorpio, and it's a month where we have two full moons. We start with an Aries full moon and we end with a Taurus new moon, and in the middle we have a Libra new moon. So it's full moon in Aries, full moon in Taurus, and new moon in Libra. And this is really about understanding the lessons. Again, there's a Mercury in retrograde, so there's this introspective message that comes up that you need to be able to review, reassess, reevaluate whatever's going on in your life. In November is a lot of preparation for the great conjunction that is happening in December. Not that is something that I have to be afraid of, but it's good to know that there are changes happening. Mercury will go direct again. We have Jupiter and Pluto for the third and last time conjunct. And it's really interesting because when the underworld, Pluto, meets the opportunist, which is Jupiter, if they come together, you can literally move mountains. And because you had this conjunction 2 times already, once direct and once in retrograde, you are able to really pick the lessons from that and really start to create really big shifts in your life. Mars is going direct, and Neptune is going direct, so we have 3 planets that are going direct that month. And there is a new moon in Scorpio and a full moon in Gemini. And then the biggest month of the year, December. That is really the shake it up month, because we have Saturn and Jupiter going into Aquarius. Aquarius is the forward thinking, it's the revolutionary. Saturn will stay there until 2023 and Jupiter will stay there until 2021. This is going to stir things up completely. But first, we have a winter solstice. That's when the sun enters Capricorn. And on that same day is a great conjunction. That is when Saturn and Jupiter come together in Aquarius. And this only happens once every 20 years. This will create huge shifts for everyone because it happens on a social level, on a political level, on a religious level, on an economical level. On all these levels, things are going to change. Now, it's not that that day it's only felt because this is a conjunction that lasts for a while, but this is the peak of that conjunction. So there might be some really interesting shifts and things are happening. And we also have a new moon in Sagittarius, and we're going to end the year again like we started, with a full moon in Cancer. So this is the year in review. I tried to keep it short because I don't want to keep you too long, but this is really what is happening in 2020. If you have any more questions, if there's anything you need to know, simply leave a comment below the video and I'll be happy to answer them. If you want a whole spreadsheet with all of these details, you can get it. Also, there's a link below you can click in the description. You can get the whole year in review in a spreadsheet, and that will help you to really plan your year ahead and know what is coming.